G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life. And I know that you guys have been asking for this video for a very long time, so thanks to Chris, we've made it happen. This is my 2006 CL9 Honda Accord Euro 6-speed manual. This is a 2009 CU2 Honda Accord Euro 6-speed manual as well, which is very rare in New Zealand. There's only about 90 of them that were sold here with a manual transmission, so to get my hands on one is a real privilege. And today we're going to be looking at the differences in the exterior styling and the interiors, and we're also going to compare the 0 to 100 times, and then finally we're going to take them both for a drive. The exterior styling is highly subjective, and this really isn't a fair test because mine has the sports kit and the Flow Designs lip kit that I've recently put on it as well, and the Type S Grille, which definitely helps it out. But the rest of the front end of the CU2 I've always really liked. I used to have one of these and I bought it because I really liked the way that it looked. Around the back, one thing that I've really liked about both of these cars is the big twin exhausts. And with mine having the sports kit around the back and the spoiler as well, which you can get on these, they both look very, very nice at the back end. The engines have long been something of a hot debate between these two cars. The CL9 has an earlier K24A3 engine. It makes 140 kilowatt and 223 newton meters from factory. This, on the other hand, has a K24Z3, which in many ways is kind of the update to this engine that they launched with the second gen Accord Euro. And it makes 148 kilowatt and 234 newton meters. So 11 more newton meters and 8 more kilowatt from stock. A couple of other differences between these two engines. In the CL9 you have hydraulic power steering, whereas in the CU2 they move to electric power steering. And while they both have 6-speed manuals setting their power to the front wheels with no limited slip diffs, unfortunately, from factory the CU2 does definitely have much better ratios. Modifications done to both of these engines. My one has a Serge Bo tune, an intake, headers and an exhaust, whereas this one just has an intake, a tune and a muffler delete. The interior of the CL9 is nice, clean and simple. When Honda designed the interior, they didn't want to make it some funky wacko thing to sit in, they just made it simple and unique. And as a result, even 15 years on, this interior is still a very, very nice place to sit and doesn't feel at all dated. All the control surfaces just have this really nice high quality feel to them, and the shifter is the party piece of all of that. The backlit gauge cluster looks really, really nice, and the seats are extremely comfortable as well, but because they're sort of a nice grippy fabric, they still hold you in very well, so I don't really feel the need to get any kind of, Recaros or anything like that. With the interior of the CU2, you can tell that Honda really put some effort into giving this interior a lot more pizzazz than in the CL9. It has all these funky creases and the way the gauge cluster flows into the center console down here. It's a very, very nicely designed and more sort of unique looking interior. The gauge cluster looks like an expensive watch. It's very, very exquisite with the sort of floating needles and the sort of recessed numbers and behind all the little lines and everything. Steering wheel is a bit smaller than the CL9, which gives it that nice sporty feel. You've got some good little sort of 10 and 2 notches here, and all the controls and buttons and everything just feel absolutely fantastic. They're definitely a step up from what you get in the CL9. The shifter itself, personally, I think the one in the CL9 feels just a little bit better, but this one is still a typical Honda transmission. And the clutch and throttle and brake and everything are all placed fantastically.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment that you've all been waiting for. Which of these two Honda Accords is fastest in a straight line? And for that, we're going to do a 0 to 100 comparison, starting with the CL9. So there we go, the CL9 managed to do it in a whopping 6.6 seconds, and now let's see what the CU2 can do. And the CU2 managed to do it in 7.8 seconds, which frankly is just a little bit on the disappointing side. But it most certainly highlights the fact that the CL9 is a lot more tunable. The CU2 is very much held back by the extra weight, the lack of VTEC on the exhaust camshaft, the sort of more simple collector style header, and the plastic intake manifold. So while it makes more power from stock, when you start to modify them, you definitely notice that the CL9 is able to pull some bigger numbers than the CU2 with full bolt-ons. But now let's see if the CU2 can claw something back in the driving section.
Alrighty, so driving the CU2 Honda Accord. It's been a while since I've been in one of these, and my last one that I drove was automatic. First impressions, ride comfort is great. This K24 has a nice amount of pull, but I'm not going to deny the CL9's one, at least with the mods I've done to it, is a much stronger engine. But this has some very nice torque. And you know, it gets up and goes, all right. Mate, the VTEC you can hear, but it's very unusual. Oh, heel toe is easy, but you have to really get on the throttle to make it actually go, right? But I love the way this engine sounds, eh? It's fantastic. It's very potent, eh? Listen to that. Oh, the gear ratios are so much nicer on this car, man. Throttle response is the first thing. Whoa, gee, see, it's so inconsistent. That's what I don't like. Sometimes it's very sluggish. Other times it's very, very snappy. But just see there, it didn't even blip at all. And yet other times it just screams to redline. Oh, yep, it feels like a bit more of a boat. It still handles nicely, but you can tell that it's a bigger car. And you can also tell, unfortunately, that it's no UOR, it's not a sports car. It doesn't quite have that edge that my CL9 does. However, this thing is really, really nice. Very smooth, very comfortable, sounds cool, gear ratios are great, good amount of torque. I do very much like it. Alrighty, driving the CL9, and boy, is this a bit different. I'm just going to say it right from the off, this car is much faster. And you would have seen that in the 0 to 100 times before. It's a good second quicker than the CU2. Through the corners, it just feels so flat. And the steering response, you know, when you turn the wheel is just so much sharper because it doesn't have to load up the suspension before it can actually get some grip. One of my big complaints with that CU2 was the, I guess, unpredictable throttle response. This, on the other hand, is a lot more like a cable throttling. You get instant throttle response, handling is amazing, sounds great, pretty raspy with the headers, and when you crack into VTEC at 4800 RPM, it's very quick. And while I know I still complain that the gear ratios are too long, and they are, wow, you can kind of forgive them because when you hit VTEC, oh my, this thing is outstanding. So there we go, CL9 versus CU2. In my opinion, if you're looking for a daily driver, whether it be manual or auto, the CU2 would be the way to go. It's comfortable, it has more features on the inside. If you get an auto one, it has paddle shifters, which makes it a lot more fun to drive. However, if you're looking for a manual car to modify, then to me, the CL9 is the way to go. It's got the better engine with more modification potential. There's more parts available for it. So there we go. If you want to see some more videos with my CL9 Accord, then click over here to see me comparing it with a BMW 335i, and click over here to see me comparing it with a Subaru Legacy 3-litre R. And I will look forward to seeing you again next time.